constant, nonstop. So one day, we're standing there. It was after a big open-air meeting we did. And a pastor comes up to my translator. So here's the translator, here's the pastor, here's the translator, here's me, my wife Nancy with me, we're standing there. And the pastor says, in English, to my translator, we're having a big gathering at our house tonight. My translator then turns to me and says, they're having a big gathering at their house tonight, and we all nod. Then he said, we're going to have a number of the pastors coming together. The translator turns to me. They're going to have a number of the pastors coming together. We're going to have a big bowl of pasta we're cooking up. They're going to have a big bowl of pasta. And I said, wait a second. Wait. By the third sentence, I said, wait a second. He's speaking in English. But none of us realized, we were just so used to translating, that this guy spoke to my translator in English, who then repeated it to me in English, and we all nodded, and then through the process. The third time I said, wait a second, he's speaking in English. Sometimes it's like, wait a second. We get into this whole debate. Well, look, according to the Bible, the Messiah's going to do this, the Messiah's going to do this. Well, stop for a second. Where does the Bible clearly say this is a messianic prophecy? Where does the Bible say, okay, just stop, we're talking about issues in our own day. Okay, it's going to be very intense in the coming days, and there's going to be this and this and this. Okay, now let me just change that. Messianic prophecy, here it is. When the Messiah comes, he will do this, this, this. Okay, now, back to the discussion. Messianic prophecies are not clearly identified as such. When someone says, it says the Messiah will be a royal king, just say, could you show me that passage? Where does it say the Messiah will be a royal king? We all know the word Mashiach, anointed one, was used for various people in the Bible. The high priest, HaKohen HaMashiach, the anointed high priest. Any king of Israel was a Mashiach of the Lord, an anointed one of the Lord. Saul, a king who came under God's disfavor, same as David. Cyrus, the Persian king, in one famous passage in Isaiah, is called a Mashiach of the Lord, an anointed one. The prophets could say that the Spirit of God had anointed them. So this concept, the Messiah, you do not have passages that clearly and explicitly say, okay, stop, this is a prophecy of the Messiah. Even Daniel 9, which many of our translations in verses 24 to 27, many of our English translations say the Messiah. The Hebrew there doesn't even say the Messiah. It speaks of a specific anointed one, a clear messianic figure as I understand the passage. But nowhere does it say this is a prophecy of the Messiah. Therefore, when a rabbi says when the Messiah comes, he'll do this and this and this and this, according to the Bible, you say, based on what interpretation? Based on my understanding, the Messiah will do that and this also. So that's the first thing you have to understand. Even deciding what is and is not a messianic prophecy is a matter of interpretation. Now the question is, do we have a right interpretation or a wrong interpretation? Can we sustain our views clearly, scripturally, this is what God was speaking about? Of course, I'd say without question, 100% yes, but it's not clearly laid out, this is a messianic prophecy. And I was doing a debate with my friend Rabbi Shmuley Boteach some months ago, and he would keep saying, when the Messiah comes, he'll do this, 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 this. Jesus hasn't done it, he can't be the Messiah. And I got up and said, look, according to the Bible, the Messiah is going to do A through Z. Shmuley's saying he hasn't done N through Z, he can't be the Messiah. I'm saying he has to because he's done A through M. Therefore, he's the only one that can do N through Z. Well, afterwards, a guy came up to me and said, yeah, but I didn't understand that point because he was saying, according to the Bible, the Messiah is going to do this, 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 this. And no matter how many times I made the counterpoint, the guy didn't seem to get it, that the Bible didn't clearly lay out, he's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the work of the Messiah. We must identify who is the Messiah, what does it mean to have a messianic prophecy, and then from there conclude that Isaiah 53 is just as messianic as Isaiah 11. Simple point, but one we need to make up front. Second point, the messianic hope in Israel developed gradually. The messianic hope in Israel developed gradually. I didn't say it developed gradually in God's heart. I didn't say that God gradually came up with this idea. Any Christian here is familiar with passages in the New Testament that speak of Jesus as a lamb slain before the foundation of the world. In other words, before the world was created. as God foresaw what would happen in his creation and what he would do to bring creation to himself. This was destined. But the concept, the understanding of Messiah grew gradually in Israel. And this is according to the biblical evidence that we have. So let me just explain that. David was the Mashiach of the Lord, right? An anointed one of the Lord. Great ideal, great promise, great power, rules powerfully in his region for a time, messes up in certain ways. His son Solomon messes up worse, then the kingdom split. But hang on. There's some wonderful words of promise given to David in the Psalms, in the Scriptures. We read Psalm 2, asking me, I'll give you the nations for your inheritance. That never happened. Psalm 110 to David or to one of his sons who will rule in the future, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. When did that happen to David? Psalm 72, which could be a prayer of David for Solomon, which the way it's headed up and the way the chapter ends would indicate it was a prayer of David for Solomon. It speaks of his rule to the ends of the earth. This is a wonderfully messianic passage. Was it realized in Solomon's day? No. So what happens? As each new king dies, think of this. Even in America, as skeptical as we are about the political system and so on, we still have hopes. You know, when a new president comes in, this guy's he's going to do it. And we have hope, or we can just change this a little, or change this, or shift in Congress. It's really going to change the nation. Sadly, the changes we normally see are fairly minimal. This is ancient Israel. This is a monarchy. This is the king. This tremendous hope with each new king born. This is it. This is the guy. He's going to be a greater David. He's going to be just like his father. All the promises are going to be fulfilled. And he messes up. He worships idols. And then a guy with real promise, he gets cut down. And then the temple's destroyed. Then the people are in exile. But wait, we still have these promises. We still have these promises about a righteous branch from David. We still have these promises about a king who's going to rule and reign. We still have these promises about the knowledge of God flooding the earth. So over a period of time, whatever the time frame is, generations, centuries, the hope, the concept of the Messiah, the Redeemer, the great Son of David that's going to save us, that begins to rise among the people. Why is that so important? Many times we'll read a prophecy and say, that's Jesus. And someone will say, how can it have anything to do with Jesus? That was a prophecy for like 2,500 years ago. That's not Jesus. That's a prophecy in Isaiah's day. That's a prophecy in Ezekiel's day. Yeah, true, those were prophecies in those days, or in the days of David and Solomon. But they were not fulfilled. They were not realized. None of those kings lived up to the expectation. And then as these words now become part of sacred scripture, the people begin to read, they begin to meditate, they begin to recite these psalms, they begin to remember the prayers, the hope that's passed on through the generations. They begin to say, where is that Redeemer? So the prophecies had a historical context, but they were not fulfilled in their day, and it works its way on over a process of time. And the messianic hope begins to rise among the people. So in keeping with this, principle number 3, many biblical prophecies are fulfilled gradually. Many biblical prophecies are fulfilled gradually. I'm going to expand on this and make it into